Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. In this week's video, I'll be continuing my mini-series where I remix the Demon Storm series written by Valerie Storm, this time getting into the series proper with a look at how I would alter or remix, or rather a pitch for how I could remix the first two books of the series, namely Birth of the Storm and Storm and Shadow. I do have to say these books will be will be the ones that where I change the least because I do have to say that the way they are presented, they do provide a solid foundation for the rest of the series, and pretty much every rewrite or change that I intend to bring forth within this video is aimed at strengthening that foundation. And the first place I will start is actually with the prologue of the first book, where Kari's parents end up meeting with her future mentor Xena, while Kari herself is in utero. I'm not exactly sure if the book mentions how whether Xena knows about Kari's whether Xena knows Kari's parents or where from. So that is the first thing I'll change within this. I'll change within this book. A relatively minor change, and that change will be that Xena doesn't know them. I'm not sure if I'm pointing correctly. Anyway, I'm not. Anyway, Xena doesn't know them, but they very much know her, because I imagine Xena would have somewhat of a maverick reputation within this within this series. And by maverick reputation, I mean that she, I mean that she is known for her more unconventional methods or approaches to her work, but she nevertheless delivers effective results. And because of that, she is also somewhat selective in what kind of work she does accept. So so her parents being there is very much a is very much a Hail Mary, to be honest. Nevertheless, when she hears about their plight and finds out that she may have an opportunity to and they may have an opportunity to help guide or train the Catalyst, then she decides, that's an opportunity that she decides is too good for her to pass up, to pass up on. So she very much accepts and says that should the time come, she will be there to, she will be there to, to provide Kari with the, with the necessary guidance. The next change, and it's going to be a somewhat bigger one, will occur roughly a decade later in universe, when Kari herself is orphaned and has to deal with living in the world of humans, a world which very much ostracizes and is hostile towards her kind. In the book, she just learns to blend in with human society. But the rewrite, I would like for that to actually go a little bit into. I'd like to hear, but for the rewrite, fuck, words are hard. For the rewrite, I want her to learn more about the more about the world more broadly. Which parts of it are demon friendly? How are they? Where are they? What what do they look like? What do they what do they work like? Do they what is the relationship of the various parts of the world between themselves, such as stuff like stuff like allyships, stuff like wars, stuff like rivalries, feuds, etc. going on. That all of these things that are that are roughly necessary for someone to that someone of her position would potentially be interested in knowing, so she can stay one step ahead of any potential aggressor. Give herself more strategies than just hide. Because while something that really annoyed me for as I read through the series was the fact that Kari, despite being one of the most powerful characters in the verse, still gets very heavily carried all throughout. So I want her to, so I want to, make the world, fill out the world somewhat, both as a way to hook readers, but also as a way to improve her own autonomy. And yeah, the next major change of the book will happen, at the tail end of her connection to Vivian, who in this rewrite will be killed by, will be killed directly by Riniko rather than some kind of beast with a backstory I myself don't really remember because it's not that important. But I do recall Vivian, and I do recall that she is a traveler, that she she writes her stuff down, like she has extensive journals of her of her journeys. So she is an interesting character, and I think she deserves a more interesting ending, or something that allows her to tie into the broader narrative. And I think her being killed by Riniko makes the most sense, both for reasons I'll reveal in future installments of this series remix, both because it gives Kari and Riniko a reason to be on each other's throats in the future of this series. The next change, which will again be somewhat of a minor one, will occur when Kari arrives at Raziak and gets to know the figures of influence, including the Lord of Raziak, Ari, who I have to say was has been portrayed as a little bit of a Gary Stu throughout the throughout the entire franchise, and I want to give him a little bit more depth and dimension, so to speak. Give him make him a more interesting character to follow. And in my rewrite, I think it makes sense if he's a little bit more haughty, a little bit more paranoid, because given his, especially when you consider his upbringing, the tragedies that happened there, as well as the responsibilities that he takes on, he would have to showcase a little bit more strength, but also not necessarily have the foundation which would allow him to which would effectively allow him to recognize how to best showcase that strength. So in that sense he would delve into that combination of paranoia and haughtiness, particularly towards the catalyst, because because he happens to be the Lord of Raziak at the time that the catalyst is supposed to supposed to return. So he really wants to make sure that his village is prepared for anything that particular beast, as he calls it, could wreak upon his town. And yes, I do think it is supposed to be a town, even though the books keep calling it a village. When you look at when you actually look at everything it is capable of producing by itself, and also its connections to the broader world, it's a town. That would also mean that the connection between him and Kari would be based less in young infatuation and more on mutual admiration, because once they learn that they are, once they see what each other can do and how they are disposed, they are more likely to grow, fond of each other. The next change is going to be another major one, and it will involve Riniko's attack on Raziak. In the original book, she adopts Kari's appearance as she does so, but instead in this book, I want her to just attack Raziak village as herself, and claim that she is doing so on behalf of the Catalyst, who she reveals to be Kari. So that when Kari comes back and and sees and Ari sees her walking around through the devastation that was supposedly wrought in her name, he absolutely goes berserk on her, and he very much tries to, and they very much try to, and very much fights to kill. He very much fights to take her out, but but because they don't have because they don't have as strong a connection as they had in the original story, or rather than just allowing herself to be killed, Kari does actually fight back. Though not, though somewhat unsuccessfully, given that she brings herself in a position where Ari is capable of delivering a killing blow. Before he is able to do so, however, a bolt strikes from the blue, interrupting him, and that bolt offers, which Kari herself, conjured as somewhat of a parallel to the first time her catalyst powers manifested, and that bolt allows her to flee Raziak village, and only to eventually be found by Xena, her future mentor, who then takes her and trains her. Ari sees her leaving, but decides to let her leave because taking care of the town is more important to him, and but nevertheless he does swear revenge on her. The next change within the series is the fact that there is a 3-year time skip between book 1 and 2 rather than 6 months. And because I want both Kari and Ari to have enough time to where they would gain all of the necessary skills they would use later on throughout the series. And somewhat fittingly, given that the book is titled Storm and Shadow, most of the changes that I want to bring up when it comes to this book revolve around Raven and her role within this within the story. In the original, after she more or less completes her training with Xena, Kari is given a lapis anima or soul stone containing Raven, and is told to take her far away, if I recall correctly. In this remix, she will instead be tasked with taking the Soul Stone to people Xena only describes as her acquaintances, which is a task that Kari accepts, just as in the books. And just as in the books, Raven is still capable of reaching out to her and tries to talk her out of this mission that she has been given, and she'll try to appeal to her using some part of her using some parts of her own backstory. Whether those parts of her backstory are actually genuine, or whether they are actually genuine entirely, halfway, fully, doesn't really matter. The point is, we as the audience get somewhat of an introduction into how she views herself, and also how she views her connection to the people that she is supposed to be delivered to. And with her trying to get Kari to either turn away from from those respective people, or to get her to join Raven on her battle against those people. I am leaning towards her persuading Kari to join her, only for her to then only for those people to then eventually be completely fully vanquished. For those of you who are wondering what the what the real version is, well, my idea of Raven is that she would be the mad scientist daughter of a fallen emperor, an emperor who, in the past, just like she is currently, is the host, or was the host of Asuri, who, if you'll recall from the last video, was is the god of shadows within this world. Raven ends up killing her father in order to gain the the power and knowledge that Suri has. Um, but unwittingly so, her actions lead to the dissolution of her father's empire, and that dissolution, funnily enough, occurs as as his empire is technically about to absorb a different fallen empire with whom her home country was at war, and therefore the people who are calling for the lapis anima containing raven are actually remnants or representatives of whatever remnants this other fallen empire, um, uh, remnants of the power that this other fallen empire that stay after the that remain after the after the fall of that other empire, which Raven now within this book manages to completely obliterate. And then she goes along with Kari in order to make their own marks on the world, trying to convince her to okay, she doesn't really try to convince her much, but she does try to possess or corrupt her, so to speak, so she can gain access to her control of her catalyst powers. And she is saved from these attempts by an unwitting by her pursuer and the man who almost tried to kill her, Ari. Because Ari would have also showed up throughout this throughout this book, will have pursued her all throughout, but their only interaction would occur right towards the tail end of this book, because he said he moved out of the village as soon as he heard that she was seen again, and decides to follow her to finally eliminate her. But once he learns a little bit more about about who is actually with her and and what their connection is actually like, he instead decides to that Raven is the bigger threat, and so joins Kari in fighting her. Raven could still, at this point at least, be argued to be more powerful than them, even the two of them combined. But I don't think she would necessarily find the decisive advantage that would allow her to win out against them. So for that reason, I imagine she would slink away back into the shadows, and or in other words, perform a tactical retreat, not wanting to, leaving herself ready to return to the series at some point in the future. Kari and Ari wouldn't become lovers or really resume whatever relationship they had in the first book right now. They would instead decide to just bury the hatchet, not be actively hostile towards each other, and make the decision to return to Raziak Village together. And this is where the book ends, with them deciding to return together, not them being back at the town. I don't know why I call it a village. Force of habit, I guess. For reasons I'll get into next time. For now, that was my suggestion for how books 1 and 2 of the Demon Storm series, Birth of the Storm and Storm and Shadow, could be remixed. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there is anything you'd like to add, either to my remix pitch or to the books that inspired it, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe, and ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My books, the first of my own Heir to the Empire series, The Next Generation and The Path Not Taken, are available at various book retailers under their respective master links in the description down below, right past my social media links, which I would suggest you check out should you choose to. And given I have a third book on the way, now is as good a time as any to choose to return to the see these videos, to choose to see, to choose to visit my social media. I also have a second channel where you can hear me talking about whatever crosses my mind. Though typically it will still revolve around narrative analyses, but of works outside of the print medium. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and check it out. If, however, you want to hear more about my thoughts on the print medium and selected works therein, well then I suggest you stay on this channel and go through my extensive backlog containing containing a lot of book reviews. In fact, mostly book reviews, but also the occasional rewrite or remix video, as well as writing advice and videos on miscellaneous connected topics. If that's something that is of interest to you. If none of what I've said is of interest to you, then I suggest you go ahead and do whatever you want the rest of your day, because it is your day after all. And yeah, that was it from me. So until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.